Hello everyone. We've got a 2005 Volvo Xc90 all-wheel drive 2.9 turbo. The alternator is not charging at all. And of course, if you look down here, the alternator is just above the AC compressor, which is what you're looking at right there. The alternator is already out. Power steering pump is laying right here. Mounts to this bracket here. Try to look it up on YouTube myself and cannot find a 05 2.9 turbo Volvo alternator removal to make life easier for everybody, including myself. It calls for about 3.5 hours to do the whole job in and out. What I find it to be is pretty much accurate, but if you use some power tools, you can probably get it out faster. It took me about an hour to get it out. Probably won't take me a little less time to get it back in. As you can see, I removed the left front headlight. the right front headlight. Because if you see down here, for the turbo, there's a hose clamp that you need to get that hose, the turbo hose, out and out of your way. Which is this piece right here. And of course I used a Sawzall blade, I don't know if you can see it, to cut that open just a little bit to pry it back so you can get to the screw, because the screw is set up against here. Once I got that off, I disconnected the upper radiator hose off the back of the water pump, I would say. And over here, where the upper radiator hose connects to, as you can see there, disconnected it from there. And I also took off the power steering reservoir, which sits just like this. Of course, I drained them out prior to doing that so I don't make myself a mess. And I also disconnected the overflow tank or coolant tank. They say you have to take it completely out of the way, you just have to move it a little bit. Same thing with the power steering pump. Pretty much once you get the hose off for the return, instead of taking it off the pump, I took it off the reservoir, which is over here. I just pretty much pulled it up as high as you can and push it over to the side. It will move. Don't worry, you're not going to break nothing. It just feels like you are. Take off the belt first and foremost, which is a 14mm. Get everything out of your way. The bolts for the power steering pump are a 12. And there's 4 bolts. As you can see, the one all the way down there to your right. I'll try to point to it for you if I can, which I can't. It's right here. It's a shiny piece, right where my finger was at. That bolt won't come out. You don't need to take it out, but pull back enough to get it out of here. Because if you see down in this little gappage here, I'll get something to point to that for you. Right here is where the alternator bottom bracket sits into and aligns up. And there's 2 hole bolts at the bottom. All those bolts are 12mm. You can get with a ratchet wrench underneath the car. Loosen them up about halfway out so the AC compressor has room to drift forward or backwards, or pretty much give you that clearance to get this out. Then the fun part is unplugging the electrical, which doesn't give you enough room to go from underneath. So you pull it off to the side and you use the 13mm on the back of the alternator, which is right here. And these little caps, if you wiggle it, it'll actually come off. And then your electrical connector right here to one single wire, that pulls right out. Now your alternator is just sitting there floating around, no room to get it out. The other video I seen the guy had the intake off. I was not doing the intake. So what I did is I turned it around, finagled it, pried from here to here with a big pry bar, just to give you somewhat clearance to get it up high enough, then have someone else pry again to, this is the hardest part, finagle it out of this hole. I put this hose up forward here. It looks like you got plenty of room. You're barely getting by. You're going to cut your hands up. Now I'm in the process of putting it back. It's basically the reverse of the process. What I would do first is, once I get that alternator in, there's a bolt that sits right underneath here on the side, which is this bolt here, which is another 12. Start that so it'll hold your alternator sturdy for you, and then get the two upper bolts. The upper bolts are the AC compressor. Put them through and through the bracket for your alternator. Start tightening them up, and then you can tighten everything else after that. Pretty much reverse the process. So I hope this helps somebody out, and wish you guys the best of luck on the next one you guys get to do.